The rain-slicked streets of Seattle swallowed his footsteps as Keith bolted from the crumbling brownstone that had once been home, his backpack thudding against his spine like a heartbeat gone rogue. "You're dead to us." His father's voice echoed in the downpour, a venomous hiss that cut deeper than any knife, sealing the door behind him with a finality that tasted like ash. In that instant, the city lights blurred into a kaleidoscope of rejection, and Keith wondered if survival was just another word for drowning in silence. He collapsed against a graffiti-scarred wall in Pioneer Square, the chill seeping through his thin hoodie, breaths ragged and tasting of salt, tears or rain. He couldn't tell. A shadow detached from the alley's maw, not menacing but steady, and a voice like gravel wrapped in velvet broke the storm. "Hey, kid. You look like the world's been chewing you up and spitting out the bones." Keith's head snapped up, eyes locking on the stranger's outstretched hand, calloused and sure, offering not pity but a tether to something unnamed. That hand belonged to Seth Harlan, a man whose easy smile hid scars as deep as the Puget Sound, and in the flicker of a neon diner sign, Keith grasped it, not knowing it would pull him from the abyss, only to test if love could bridge the chasms of betrayal waiting in the wings. Keith had always known the Harlan family dinners were a minefield, but tonight's explosion felt biblical. The clatter of silverware against porcelain had built like thunder, his mother's forced laughter fraying at the edges until his brother, Marcus, lobbed the grenade. "So, Keith, you gonna bring that friend from college home again? Or is it just a phase?" The room froze, forks hovering mid-air, and Keith's throat tightened around the truth he'd rehearsed in mirrors but never voiced aloud. His father, Harlan Sr., a retired longshoreman with hands like weathered oak, set his glass down with a thud that rattled the crystal. "What the hell does that mean, boy?" Keith's pulse thundered, the weight of 23 years crashing down, the stolen glances at high school lockers, the ache of prom nights spent alone in the attic, the quiet rebellion of a rainbow pin hidden in his sock drawer. "Dad, it's not a phase. I'm gay." The words landed like a felled tree, splintering the air. Silence stretched, taut as a bowstring, until his mother's sob shattered it. "How could you do this to us? To God?" She clutched her cross necklace, eyes wide with betrayal, as if he'd chosen this to spite her Sunday sermons. Marcus snorted, shoving back from the table. "Freak," and Harlan Sr.'s face hardened into granite. "Get out. We don't harbor that sin under this roof." Keith stood, chair scraping like a scream, grabbing his keys with trembling fingers. The door slammed behind him, and the rain welcomed him like an old enemy. Pioneer Square was a labyrinth of shadows and secrets, the kind of place where lost souls washed up like driftwood. Keith slumped against the brick, the cold leaching color from his knuckles as he fumbled for his phone. Dead, of course. Battery surrendered hours ago. No calls to the few friends who'd faded after graduation. No rideshare apps to summon salvation. Just the relentless patter of rain and the distant wail of a siren, mocking his isolation. That's when Seth appeared, materializing from the fog like a figure from some noir film Keith had binged in secret. Tall, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair cropped close and a jawline shadowed by stubble, Seth moved with the unhurried grace of someone who danced with demons and won. His leather jacket gleamed wetly under the street lamp, and those hazel eyes, flecked with gold like autumn leaves, held no judgment, only a quiet assessment. "Rough night?" Seth asked, crouching to Keith's level, voice low and steady, carrying the faint lilt of a Midwest transplant. Keith wiped his face, smearing rain and regret. You could say that. He expected the stranger to nod awkwardly and vanish. But Seth lingered, pulling a crumpled pack of smokes from his pocket. Mind if I join the pity party? Name's Seth. I own the joint across the street, Harlan's Brew. If you're ever thirsty for something stronger than regret. He lit one, offering it over, but Keith shook his head. Keith. And thanks, but I'm good. Just figuring out where to crash. Seth exhaled a plume of smoke that curled like a question mark. Figuring out? Huh? Looks more like running from. He glanced at the backpack, the sodden sneakers, the defeat etched in Keith's posture. Tell you what, there's a spare room above the bar. Nothing fancy, but dry. And coffee's on me at dawn. Keith's guard flared, suspicion a reflex honed by years of sidelong glances. Why? You don't know me. A shrug, shoulders rolling like waves. Because I've been there. Booted out at 19 for the same damn reason. Figure the universe owes me a chance to pay it forward. Seth stood, extending that hand again, and this time Keith took it, the warmth seeping through like sunlight after storm. They crossed the square in silence, boots splashing puddles that mirrored fractured streetlights, and for the first time that night, Keith breathed without the vice of loneliness crushing his ribs. Harlan's Brew was a relic, all exposed brick and mismatched stools, the air thick with the ghosts of spilled stories and foamy pints. Seth flipped the sign to closed, leading Keith up a narrow staircase that creaked under their weight. The room was sparse, a twin bed with threadbare quilt, a dresser scarred by forgotten initials, a window overlooking the square's eternal drizzle. Bathrooms down the hall. Towels in the cabinet. Holler if you need anything. Seth paused at the door, thumbing his lighter absently. Sleep, kid. Tomorrow's a clean slate, even if it feels like bullshit right now. Keith nodded, throat too thick for words, and as the door clicked shut, he sank onto the bed, the mattress sighing in sympathy. The rain drummed a lullaby against the pane, and in the quiet, memories clawed free, childhood fishing trips with Dad, where silence meant approval, Mom's hugs scented with lavender, fierce and forgiving, Marcus's reluctant grins over stolen baseball cards. All ashes now, scattered by one confession. But Seth's voice lingered, an anchor in the churn, generous, unquestioning. As exhaustion pulled him under, Keith wondered if hope was just a stranger's kindness, fragile as a match flame in the wind. Dawn crept in gray and grudging, painting the room in muted tones. Keith stirred to the aroma of bacon and burnt toast wafting up from below, stomach twisting in equal parts hunger and hesitation. He splashed water on his face, avoiding the mirror's accusatory gaze, and descended into the bar's kitchen, where Seth presided over a griddle like a reluctant king. Morning, sunshine. Eggs over easy, or you one of those scramble purists? Seth asked, flipping a strip with theatrical flair. Over easy's fine. Keith slid onto a stool, watching as Seth plated food with the efficiency of habit, black coffee steaming in a chipped mug, toast golden and buttered. They ate in companionable quiet at first, the clink of forks punctuating the hum of the coffee maker. Then Seth leaned back, nursing his mug. So, Bill. Or don't. But if you're sticking around, might as well know the lay of the land. Keith poked at his eggs, the yolk bleeding yellow like unspoken fears. Family found out. About me. Dad said I was dead to them. Mom just cried. Brother called me a freak. The words tumbled out, raw and unpolished, surprising even him. Seth listened without interruption, face impassive, until Keith trailed off. Pathetic, right? 23 and homeless because of who I love. Seth's laugh was soft, devoid of mockery. Pathetic? Nah. Brave as hell. Takes guts to say it aloud, especially to faces that might shatter. He set his mug down, eyes meeting Keith's with unflinching honesty. My old man was a preacher in Ohio. Came out senior year boom. Disowned. Bible verses raining down like Judgment Day. Hitchhiked west. Landed here 15 years ago. Built this place from scraps. You're already ahead. No preaching scars. Keith absorbed that, the parallel a bomb on his frayed edges. What about you? Ever get past it? Seth's gaze drifted to the window, rain tracing rivulets like tears. Some days. Found a guy once. Thought it was forever. He bailed when the bar tanked during the recession. Taught me love's a gamble, but worth the house odds. A beat, then lighter. Enough therapy hour. You got skills? Bar needs a hand, washing glasses, stocking shelves. Room's yours till you land on your feet. No strings. Relief flooded Keith, warm as the coffee sliding down his throat. I can do that. Hell, I bartended summers at the lake house. Seth grinned, clapping him on the shoulder, a touch electric. Fleeting. Deal. Welcome to the family, Keith. And just like that, in the steam of a greasy skillet, a fragile alliance bloomed, roots tentative in Seattle's sodden soil. The days blurred into a rhythm. Mornings mopping floors slick with last night's regrets. Afternoons hauling kegs that bit into his palms like penance. Evenings behind the bar where laughter drowned the ache. Harlan's Brew drew a motley crowd. Dockworkers nursing drafts. Artists sketching in corners. The occasional tourist snapping pics of the vintage jukebox. Keith learned Seth's quirks. The way he hummed Springsteen off-key while inventorying whiskey. The scar snaking his forearm from a bar fight turned brotherly brawl. The quiet hours after close when he'd polish glasses with a cloth worn thin as memory. One Tuesday, as neon flickered to life, a regular named Eddie, a wiry vet with tattoos fading like old regrets, slid onto a stool. New blood. Seth? He cleans up nicer than you. Seth chuckled, pouring a neat bourbon. Keith's the upgrade. Don't scare him off. Eddie winked at Keith, voice gravelly. Smart kid. This city's got teeth. But it chews slow if you play nice. Their banter flowed easy. A shield against the void Keith still felt yawning inside. But nights were harder. Alone in the room above, where silence amplified the ghosts. He'd scroll job sites on Seth's borrowed laptop, applications vanishing into digital ether, or stare at the ceiling, replaying the ejection like a looped reel. One such night, thunder rattled the windows, and footsteps creaked on the stairs. A knock soft, hesitant. Keith, you up? Seth's voice, muffled. Come in. Seth entered, bearing 2 mugs of chamomile. Figured the storms got you twisted. He settled on the desk chair, legs stretched, the lamplight carving hollows under his eyes. Can't sleep myself. Old habit. Rain reminds me of that first night out, huddled under a bridge in Spokane. Keith sat up, hugging his knees. Does it ever stop hurting? The family thing. Seth sipped, steam curling. The sharp edges dull. but the scar stays. Makes you who you are. Though tougher. Kinder maybe. His gaze held Keith's. Something unspoken shimmering there. Warm and uncharted. You're doing good, kid. Prouder than you know. The air thickened, charged, until Seth stood abruptly. Get some shut-eye. Big rush tomorrow. He left, door whispering shut. But the chamomile lingered, sweet on Keith's tongue, a promise of bridges yet to burn. Weeks turned to a month, the bar's pulse sinking with Keith's own. He bantered with patrons, mastered the pour of a perfect IPA, even fixed the jukebox when it spat static instead of soul. Seth watched, approval in every nod, their conversations deepening. Tales of Keith's hidden sketches in college. Seth's dream of expanding to a food truck. Laughter came easier. Touches accidental but lingering. A brush of fingers over a shared rag. A steadying hand on Keith's back during a spilled tray. Then came the letter. Slipped under the bar door like a serpent's tongue. Harlan Sr.'s handwriting. Spidery and severe. Your mother's sick. Cancer. Come home, son. We forgive. Keith's hands shook as he read, the words blurring. Forgiveness? Or guilt's cruel hook? He showed Seth after close. The bar empty save for the hum of fridges. What do I do? They threw me out. But she's. Seth read it twice. Face unreadable. You go if you want. But don't let forgive mean forget. Boundaries. Keith, that's your armor now. Advice solid as oak. Yet Seth's eyes betrayed a flicker loss. Perhaps. Or fear of fractures. Keith nodded, pocketing the letter, unaware it was the first crack in their fragile world. The drive east was a blur of interstates and introspection. The Cascades giving way to the flat sprawl of the Midwest like a sigh of surrender. Keith gripped the wheel of Seth's borrowed pickup, a '98 Ford with a dented fender and a stick shift that fought like a mule. Radio tuned low to NPR. Stories of resilience that mirrored his own reluctant pilgrimage. The letter burned in his glove box. A talisman of turmoil. Mom's cancer. Stage 3. The word, forgive, italicized in his father's meticulous script. Was it absolution or ambush? Keith's gut twisted. Seattle's rain a distant memory under Ohio's relentless blue. Pulling into the driveway of his childhood home. A squat rancher with peeling siding and a flagpole drooping like defeat. Keith killed the engine, heart hammering. The door opened before he knocked. Mom frail in her robe, cheeks hollowed by chemo's cruel chisel. Keithy, she whispered, arms enveloping him in lavender and loss. He held her, bones bird-like under his touch, tears hot on his collar. I'm here, Mom. Whatever it takes. Dad hovered in the doorway, face a mask of stoicism cracked at the edges. Good of you to come. No embrace. Just a nod. Marcus lurking behind like a shadow puppet. Dinner was strained ritual. Meatloaf congealing under gravy. Conversation skirting the chasm. How's work? Mom asked. Fork trembling. Keith swallowed lies about the bar, omitting Seth's name like a forbidden incantation. Dad grunted approvals, eyes avoiding the rainbow flag pin now glinting defiantly on Keith's jacket. Nights blurred into caregiving, spooning broth, holding basins for nausea, reading psalms she requested though they chafed his soul. Marcus worked swings at the mill, dropping by with six-packs and sidelong jabs. Still playing house with your pals out west? Keith bit back retorts, energy sapped by Mom's fading light. Dad thawed incrementally, shared silences in the garage. Tools passed without sermons, but the air hummed with unspoken ultimatums. 2 weeks in, the call came during a rare nap, Seth's number flashing like a lifeline. "Hey, stranger. Bars surviving, but missing your pour on the Manhattans." His voice, warm gravel, uncoiled the knot in Keith's chest. "Miss it too. Mom's holding barely. This place. It's like stepping into quicksand." Seth listened. Then, "You're stronger than you think. And when you're ready, that room's waiting." "So am I." The line went dead, but the echo lingered, a spark in the dim. Mom rallied on good days, insisting on walks to the corner park where Keith once scraped knees on swings. "I was wrong, baby," she confessed one afternoon, bench creaking under them, her hand frail in his. "Feared losing you to the world. Not seeing your sin was my fear." Tears carved tracks down her lined face. Keith squeezed, voice thick. "I love you, Mom. Always did." Forgiveness flowed tentative, a stream carving stone, but Dad's shadow loomed, his welcome back provisional, laced with change your ways whispers. The betrayal brewed subtle, like storm clouds massing. Marcus cornered him in the basement laundry, reeking of beer. Dad's talking therapy, real help, not that West Coast bullshit. "You gonna stick around, or run again?" Keith's temper flared. "This isn't about me fitting your box. It's Mom," Marcus sneered. "Everything's about you. Freak show ruined us." The shove came swift, Keith's shoulder slamming the dryer, pain blooming hot. He shoved back, fists clenched, but Dad's bellow halted the fray. "Enough, we're family. Damn it." That night, Keith texted Seth a photo of Mom smiling over tea. Caption, "Worth the war." Reply instant, "Hell yes. You're a hero, kid." The words fortified him, but sleep evaded, doubts gnawing like rats in the walls. Mom's decline accelerated mid-month, hospice whispers turning to reality. Keith became sentinel, Dad retreating to his recliner with whiskey, Marcus vanishing into shifts. In the dim-lit living room, monitors beeping like accusatory metronomes, Mom gripped his hand. "Promise me. Live true, Keithy. No more hiding." Her eyes, cloudy but fierce, held his. "I promise." She slipped away at dawn, breath a sigh, leaving silence vast as the prairie sky. The funeral was a blur of casseroles and condolences, black suits stark against the church's stained glass, irony bitter as bile. Dad clasped Keith's shoulder during the eulogy, voice cracking, "She loved you fierce." "Always will." Marcus nodded, truce fragile. But as mourners dispersed, Dad pulled him aside in the vestibule. "Stay, son. We need you. This thing. We can fix it. Church has programs." The word thing landed like a slap, Keith's grief fracturing into rage. "It's not broken, Dad. It's me. And if you can't see that, I'm gone." He fled to the pickup, tires spinning gravel, eastbound grief morphing to westward fury. Hours bled into night, radio crooning melancholic folk, Dylan rasping of tangled times. Seth's texts pinged unanswered. "You okay? Talk to me." Crossing the Cascades, rain resuming like old friend, Keith wept unchecked. Mom's promise a compass amid the storm. Seattle greeted him sodden and indifferent, Harlan's bruise sign glowing like a beacon. Seth waited at the curb, arms crossed, face etched with worry. Jesus, Keith. You look like hell dragged you through it twice. No questions. Just a crushing hug that smelled of hops and home. Keith sagged into it, sobs muffled against Seth's jacket. She's gone. And they still don't get it. Inside, over black coffee at the bar, Keith unspooled the tale. Mom's grace, Dad's conditions, Marcus's venom. Seth listened, hand steady on Keith's forearm, thumb tracing absent circles. I'm sorry, kid. For all of it. But you honored her, lived true, like she wanted. His eyes, gold-flecked, shimmered with unshed tears. Proud doesn't cover it. Exhaustion claimed Keith then, head pillowed on the bar top, Seth's jacket draped over him like a shield. In dreams, Mom smiled from the park bench, Seth's hand intertwined with his, blurred edges of what-ifs. Waking to Seth's soft snore from the booth opposite, Keith felt the shift. Not just survivor, but seeker, drawn to the man who'd offered harbor without demand. Re-entry was gentle. Patrons clapping Keith's return with shots on the house, Eddie toasting to fierce mamas and fiercer sons. Work resumed, muscle memory soothing the raw. But evenings deepened their bond, Seth sharing war stories of bar brawls turned bromance, Keith sketching portraits of regulars on napkins, Seth's praise lighting him like stage lights. One night, post-close, wiping counters side by side, Seth paused. You know, you're more than a hand around here. You're family. The word hung, waited, and Keith's heart stuttered. Yeah, ditto. Touches evolved. A lingering pat on the back, fingers brushing over bottlenecks. Keith caught himself watching Seth, the flecks of forearms rolling kegs, the rare unguarded laugh that crinkled his eyes. Desire stirred, tentative, but fear nipped at its heels, rejection's echo too fresh. Yet Seth's glances held heat, unspoken invitations in the lamplight. Then the past clawed back, a voicemail from Dad, voice gravelly with regret. Keith, we buried her ashes by the lake. Your spot. Come see. Temptation warred with resolve. Seth found him staring at the phone, brow furrowed. Ghosts. Family ones. Asking me back. For real this time. Seth's jaw tightened. Imperceptible. Your call. But remember, family's what you build, not just blood. Keith deleted the message. Choice made. But in Seth's eyes, a shadow flickered, betrayal's seed, sown unseen. Autumn painted Seattle in rust and gold, leaves skittering across the square like whispered secrets. Harlan's brew thrived in the crisp bite, harvest Alesh drawing crowds that spilled onto the sidewalk. Keith flourished behind the bar, his sketches evolving from napkins to framed walls, portraits of Eddie Midlaff, Seth pouring with mythic focus. Patrons dubbed him the artist, tips doubling, but it was Seth's quiet, beautiful work that ignited something deeper, a glow uncoiling in Keith's chest. Their routine deepened into intimacy's prelude. Shared runs along the waterfront at dawn, breaths sinking to the slap of waves. Lazy Sundays off, sprawled on Seth's worn couch watching old westerns, commentary laced with inside jokes. Seth opened up in fragments, his ex, Jordan, a photographer who'd chased LA lights, leaving Seth with a half-finished mural in the back room and a heart tattooed in invisible ink. Thought he was it, Seth admitted one fog-shrouded evening, nursing a rare whiskey neat. Turns out, timing's a thief. Keith mirrored confessions over takeout foe, steam rising like confessions. Never had a real boyfriend. College flings fizzled. Too scared to push. Seth's gaze softened, hand covering Keith's across the coffee table. Their loss. Your gold. Kid solid. Shining. The touch lingered. Electric. Until Seth pulled back with a wry smile. Don't let an old-timer cramp your style. But Keith wanted the cramp. The complication. Seth's steadiness a siren call amid his nomad heart. He tested waters. A playful shoulder bump during inventory, earning Seth's chuckle. Leaving a sketch of them fishing, imagined, idyllic, on the fridge. Seth pinned it without comment, but his eyes held questions, warm and wary. Conflict brewed with Thanksgiving's approach, the bar's annual potluck a beacon for strays. Keith invited no one, Ohio a closed chapter, but Dad's email arrived unbidden. Table set. One seat empty. Yours. Grief twisted anew. Mom's absence a hollow. He showed Seth over closing shifts. Rain lashing windows. Part of me wants to go. Show them I'm okay. But the rest. Fears it's a trap. Seth polished a glass to gleam. Voice measured. You don't owe them your peace. But if it heals, go. I'll hold the fort. Advice sage, yet laced with strain, Seth's shoulders tense. Laugh forced that night. Keith noticed, probing later over late-night tacos. You okay? Seem off. Seth waved it off. Just old baggage. Holidays stir the pot. The potluck was a triumph. Cornbread steaming. Turkey carved communal. Stories flowing freer than wine. Eddie led toasts to found kin. Eyes misty on Keith. As plates cleared, Seth pulled him aside to the back alley. Air sharp with chill. You lit up tonight. Makes this place feel like more. His hand cupped Keith's nape. Thumb grazing jaw intimate. Inevitable. Keith leaned in. Heart thundering. Lips brushing Seth's in a kiss tentative as first frost. Deep and slow. Seth's arms encircling. World narrowing to rain-damp wool and shared breath. Pullback brought grins. Shy and stunned. Been wanting that, Seth murmured. Forehead to Keith's. Me too. They lingered. Kisses punctuation to confessions. Until a patron's holler dragged them in. Flushed and fortified. Romance bloomed private. Fervent. Stolen moments in the stockroom. Hands exploring with reverent care. Walks home hand in gloved. Fingers laced against the cold. Seth cooked. Chili bubbling with secrets. Stories of Midwest farms seasoning the simmer. Keith drew them intertwined. Pages filling with possibility. Love this, Seth said, tracing lines. Us, but betrayal's shadow lengthened. December ushered Dad's call. Voice frayed. Christmas alone's killing me, son. Marcus too. Come home, just once. Keith wavered. Post-kiss glow dimming. Maybe. For closure, Seth nodded. But distance crept. Longer hours at the bar. Glances averted. Keith confronted over eggnog prep. Tinsel tangled like nerves. What's eating you? Since the email. Seth sighed. Stirring too vigorously. It's nothing. Just history. My ex bailed around holidays too. Paranoia. But Keith sensed undercurrents. Unease eddying. Christmas Eve. Decision crystallized. A compromise flight. 2 days only. Boundaries ironclad. Seth drove him to the airport. Kiss goodbye fierce under sodium lights. Be safe. Call if it sours. Keith promised, boarding with hope's fragile wings. Ohio was snow-draped, the rancher twinkling with lights that mocked merriment. Dad enveloped him in a hug, stiff, but real. Marcus clapping his back with gruff, "Good to see ya." Dinner unfolded civil. Ham glazed golden, carols crackling on radio. Stories flowed of Mom's quirks, her secret pie crust recipe, laughter lines deepening with memory. Dad even asked if Seattle, bar treating you right? Keith shared snippets, omitting Seth, warmth tentative but thawing. Midnight mass beckoned, Dad's insistence gentle. Keith went, pew wood polished smooth, him swelling like waves. Candles flickered, faces upturned, and in the hush, Dad whispered, "She'd want us here." Whole, Keith nodded, tears pricking not absolution, but accord. Boxing Day dawned brittle, Marcus cornering him in the kitchen over coffee. Dad's trying, man. Cut him slack. Keith bristled. Slack? He disowned me. Marcus shifted, uncomfortable. Yeah, well, we're blood. That's something. The words chafed, but Keith let it lie, packing with lighter heart. Flight west was turbulence-tossed, mirroring turmoil. Landing, he texted Seth, survived. Coming home, no reply odd, but fatigue excused it. Harlan's brew loomed dark, sign unlit. Alarm bells clanged as Keith climbed stairs, door ajar. Inside, chaos, boxes strewn. Seth hunched over papers, face ashen. Keith, God, you're back. Relief warred with dread. What happened? Seth's exhale ragged. Eviction notice. Landlords selling condos. Places done. Keith's world tilted. Bars hum silenced. We fight it. Together. But Seth's eyes dodged. Shadowed. Already did. Lost. And I didn't tell you sooner. Thought you'd stay in Ohio. Betrayal stung. Sharp. You thought I'd bail? After everything. Seth recoiled. No, feared you'd choose them. Blood over. This. Words hung. Accusations unspoken. Keith stormed out. Snow falling fat flakes. Heart fracturing in the freeze. New Year's Eve dawned brittle. Seattle's skyline shrouded in inversion fog that mirrored the murk in Keith's soul. The eviction notice taped to Harlan's door fluttered like a death knell. Black ink screaming deadlines Keith couldn't outrun. He'd crashed on Eddie's couch after the blowout. 2 nights of scratchy wool and stale regret. Seth's texts piling unanswered. Talk to me. I'm sorry. Silence was Keith's retort. A wall built brick by bruised trust. The bar's fate gnawed relentless. Memories marbled its walls. First pours. Stolen kisses. The potluck's communal roar. Losing it felt like amputation. Seth's omission the scalpel. Why hide it? Fear Keith would flee east. Or something uglier. Doubt in their fragilus? Dawn found him pacing the square. Breath fogging air. When Eddie's pickup rumbled up. Hop in, kid. Boss man's a wreck without you. Seth waited in the kitchen. Flour dusted from phantom baking. Eyes ringed purple. Keith. Please. The plea cracked something. Keith sliding onto a stool. You shut me out. Like I was just passing through. Seth raked hair. Voice raw. Panic. All right. Place folds. You're free, back to family. Real life. Didn't want to clip your wings. Keith's laugh bitter. Real life? This is it, us. The bar. The mess. You think I'd trade that for Ohio's ghosts? Seth crossed arms. Defensive. Your dad called again. Sounded hopeful. Figured blood pulls harder. Jealousy. Unearthed. Seth's fear not of loss, but replacement. Keith softened, hand bridging the gap. Blood broke me. You mended. But trust? That's earned. Not assumed. Seth nodded. Grip fierce. Won't happen again. Promise. Truce tentative. They rallied, petitioning patrons for signatures. Save Harlan's. Scrawled on coasters. Cold calling investors Seth swore off years back. Eddie marshaled vets for a benefit gig. Fiddles wailing blues into the night. Keith sketched flyers, the bar as Phoenix. Flames licking brick. Seth's grin at the reveal melting frost. You're magic. You know that. Climax brewed with the landlord's ultimatum. Vacate by Valentine's. Or face locks. Desperation forged alliance. Seth revealed his mural. Half done in the back. A cascade of faces. Keith's prominent. Eyes alive with untold stories. Jordan started it. You. Finished inspiring. Brush in hand. Keith added strokes. Colors blooming defiant. Nights blurring into paint-flecked intimacy. Bodies close over canvas. Kisses tasting of turpentine and tomorrow. But betrayal's echo resounded. Dad's letter arrived certified. Postmarked urgent. Found your sketches in the attic, hidden ones. Proud. Son. Come build here. Room for your life. Enclosed photo. Mom's lake spot. Rainbow pin tucked in dirt. Keith's resolve wavered. Grief's tide pulling. He shared with Seth midmural. Brush pausing. They're trying. Really? Seth's face shuddered. Roller still. And? You going? Keith searched hazel depths. Hurt flickering. No. But it matters, they're healing. Seth turned away. Voice muffled. Healing without you. Fine. But this. Gesture encompassing the bar. The us. Disposable. Misstep minefield. Keith stepping wrong. Not disposable. Just context. The fight erupted post-benefit. Crowds' cheers fading to silence. Eddie packed gear. Patrons trickling out. When Seth cornered Keith by the jukebox. You're torn. I see it. Ohio's calling, family. Fresh start. I'll hold you back. Keith whirled. Fury flaring. Holding back? You're my start. But you keep waiting for me to bolt. Like Jordan. Seth flinched. Accusation landing true. Maybe I am Jordan. Scared shitless you'll wake up and see the wreck. Words weaponized. Keith hurled Seth's doubts back. You hid the eviction. Tested me. Seth countering with fears of abandonment. Voices rising over Springsteen's ghost. A glass shattered, Keith's toss. Reflexive shards skittering like fleeing dreams. If you think I'd choose them over us, you're blind. Keith stormed. Door banging. Snow swallowing his sobs. Wanderings led to the waterfront. Ferries ghosting on ink-black sound. Waves whispering recriminations. Phone buzzed. Marcus. Dad's bad heart scare. Get home. Panic surged. Keith hailing a cab to the airport. Ticket bought on impulse. Text to Seth. Family emergency. Don't wait. Flight airborne. Regrets weight crushing. Seattle shrinking to speck. Ohio's ER was fluorescent hell. Dad pale in beeping confines. Marcus pacing like caged wolf. Clogged artery. Docs say bypass. Keith collapsed into chair, Vigil joining the fray. Dad stirred. I's finding him. Knew you'd come. Weak squeeze, but real. Marcus clapped shoulder. Silent pact. Hours bled to surgery. Waiting room a limbo of bad coffee and buried hatchets. Dad pulled through. Room blooming flowers from well-wishers, church ladies, mill buddies. Keith stayed weak. Nursing broth. Sharing silences that knit old wounds. One night, Dad broached, "Your man, Seth? Bar sounds like home." Keith stilled. Confession spilling. "He is. Saved me when you couldn't." Dad nodded. Slow. "Regret that. But you're whole now. Go live it." Absolution. Hard one. Keith's tears salt on sutures. Return flight thrummed anxiety. Texts to Seth unanswered. Bar's fate a void. Landing. Cab to the square. Harlan's dark. For sale sign mocking. Heart plummeting. Keith climbed stairs. Door unlocked. Light spilling. Inside. Chaos reordered. Boxes unpacked. Seth on ladder hanging Keith's mural. Patrons milling with hammers and hope. "What?" Keith breathed. Seth descended. Grin weary but wide. Rallied the troops. Crowdfunded the buyout Eddie's lead. Place is ours. Cheers erupted. Hugs engulfing. But Seth pulled him aside. Voice hushed. "Thought you'd stay east." Prepared to let go. Keith cupped his face. Fierce. "Never." "You're home," Kiss claimed. Crowd whooping. Betrayal's ashes fertilizing renewal. But shadows lingered. Dad's recovery fragile. Marcus's emails tentative. Visit soon. Pull of blood undeniable. Seth sensed it. Nights when Keith stared east from the window. "We could hybrid," Seth murmured once. Arms wrapped. Roots here. Branches there. Wisdom. But Keith's heart tugged dual directions. Conflicts ember smoldering. Spring unfurled tentative in Seattle. Cherry blossoms dusting the square like confetti from hesitant heavens. Harlan's brew, now co-owned. Deeds inked with ink still fresh. Pulsed renewed. Expanded patio blooming ferns. Menu laced with Keith's pop-up art shows. Their romance matured. No longer stolen but savored. Mornings tangled in Seth's bed. The room above upgraded to loft. Coffee brewed lazy. Plans sketched over syrup-slick pancakes. "Road trip summer?" Seth proposed. Finger tracing Keith's collarbone. Route 66 vibes. Diner hops. Desert stars. Keith grinned. Sealing with a kiss sweet as promise. Yet fractures spiderwebbed unseen. Dad's rehab progressed. Weekly calls evolving from clinical to candid. Tales of mill heydays. Mom's recipes revived. Marcus softened. Inviting bro time over beers, virtual first. Pixels bridging miles. Keith shared snippets with Seth. Joy tempered by ache. They're trying. Feels like family. Seth's smile didn't reach eyes. Good. Deserve it. Climax crested Memorial Day. Bar hosting a block party, barbecue smoke curling. Band's thumping bass that vibrated bones. Keith's phone buzzed mid-grill flip. Dad. Winded. Heart steady. But thinking of selling the house. Too big alone. Come sort memories? Urgency masked as casual. But Keith heard the plea. Soon. Promise. He pocketed it. Flipping burgers. But distraction drew Seth's gaze. Post-party cleanup. Alley reeked of char and spilled stout. Seth coiling extension cords with deliberate tugs. You're drifting again. Keith paused. Trash bag dangling. Drifting? Is Dad house. Memories. Not ditching. Seth's jaw clenched. Cord whipping taut. Every call pulls you east. Like I'm the layover. Old wounds ripped. Keith firing back. And you're the anchor. Choking me? I love you. But blood's not erasable. Escalation swift. Seth accusing abandonment in waiting. Keith hurling isolation's blame. You built walls first. Voices echoed off brick. A neighbor peeking curtains. Keith fled to the loft. Slamming door. Heart hammering regret. Seth didn't follow. Silence a chasm. Dawn brought clarity's cruel light. Keith packed a duffel. Essentials only. Flight booked dawn. Note on Seth's pillow. Need space to sort. Not goodbye. Love. K. Airport security swallowed him. Boarding pass trembling. Seattle's embrace loosening. Ohio bloomed riotous. House a time capsule. Mom's quilts folded pristine. Dad's tools oiled expectant. Sorting unearthed treasures. Keith's childhood drawings taped inside cabinets. A letter from Mom unfinished. My brave boy. Love you boundless. Tears flowed unchecked. Dad joining with stories soft-edged. Miss her fire, he admitted. Boxes half-packed. Marcus arrived weekend. Truck bed hauling donations. Banter rusty but warming. Seattle treating you right? That Seth guy. Keith nodded. Throat tight. Yeah. Complicated. But right. Days stretched weak. House emptying like exhaled breath. Calls to Seth went voicemails. Miss your voice. Sorting ghosts. Back soon. Replies sparse. Take time. Distance amplified doubts. Was love elastic enough for dual homes? Betrayal's ghost whispered. Seth's fear justified? Return thrust him into Harlan's frenzy. Summer rush. Seth buried in shifts. Smile professional but strained. Good trip. Polite. Distant. Keith nodded. Diving into work. But air crackled charged. Evenings alone in loft. Keith sketched furious. Seth's profile fierce. Eyes shadowed, pages piling like pleas. Confrontation brewed July 4th. Fireworks blooming over the sound. Bar patio packed with revelers. Keith pulled Seth to the roof access. Bottle rockets whistling backdrop. We're unraveling. Talk. Seth leaned rail. Face lit explosive. You left. Again. Note like a Dear John. Keith gripped arm. Space. Not split. Family needed me. You get that? Seth whirled. Pain raw. I needed you. Watched you pack. Thought Jordan 2.0. Truth detonated. Seth's ex hadn't just left. He'd chosen family reconciliation over their life. Ghosting post-Ohio visit. Swore off second chances, Seth confessed. Voice cracking. Then you. History rhymed. Keith reeled. Betrayal's layers peeling, Seth's secrecy born of scar tissue. I didn't know. But hiding it, that's the real ghost. Fireworks crescendoed, illuminating fractures. Keith stormed down, mingling amid cheers. Heart splintered. Seth vanished into crowd. Later found slumped in kitchen. Whiskey half gone. Go east permanent, he slurred. Eyes desolate. Fit there. I'm just. Interim. Keith knelt, cupping face. Interim? You're everything. But we can't build on quicksand. Ultimatum hung unspoken. Keith fled to Eddie's again. Couch of familiar exile. Days blurred workmanlike. Bars hum hollow without their sink. Patrons noticed. Trouble in paradise? Eddie probed over lunch. Burger grease glistening. Boss man's moping. You too. Fix it. Kid, life's too short for stubborn. August heat wave baked the city. Tempers simmering. Keith's sketches turned abstract. Storms inked turbulent. Seth commissioning none. Dad's call broke drought. House sold. Proceeds split 3 ways. Your share. Start something. Windfall timely. Keith wiring half to Seth anonymously. Note. For us. If there is us. Discovery sparked Seth's text. Why? Meet at the mural. Post-close. Seth waited. Canvas glowing under halogens. Money's a bandage. Not suture. Keith stepped close. Vulnerability bared. Then let's scar honest. I want both you, them. Hybrid heart. Seth searched eyes. Walls crumbling. Terrifies me. But. Try. Reconciliation tentative. Hands clasped over mural. Kisses tentative as new buds. They planned Keith's bi-monthly Ohio runs. Seth visiting fall. Trust rebuilt plank by plank. Bars pulse quickening. But fate's twist loomed Labor Day. Marcus's frantic call. Dad collapsed stroke. Critical. Keith's world imploded. Bag packed frantic. Seth drove. Airport drop-off kiss desperate. Come back to me. Promise whispered. Plane lifting. Keith's reflection tear-streaked. Ohio's autumn was a blaze of crimson and regret. Leaves carpeting the hospital lot like shed warnings. Dad lay intubated in ICU. Monitors a symphony of beeps underscoring fragility. Face slack. Hand limp in Keith's grasp. Marcus paced corridors. Hollow-eyed. Came home from shift. Found him. Doc say. Touch and go. Keith nodded numb. Vigil commencing. Seth's texts a lifeline across time zones. Holding the fort. Love you. Days merged, morphine-dazed. Consultations cryptic. Family clustered in vinyl chairs. Marcus cracking under weight. Should've visited more. He confessed midnight vending run. Sodas sweating. Keith clapped shoulder. We all should've. Truce deepened. Brothers bridging with bad jokes. Shared silences by Dad's bed. Seth flew in unannounced week 2. Face weary from red-eye. Duffel light. Couldn't not. Keith collapsed into hug. Hospital fluorescence softening to gold. They tag-teamed, Seth charming nurses with coffee runs. Holding Keith through sobs in family lounge. Dad stabilized. Sliver of hope. Responding to therapy. Prognosis guarded. But breath steady. Evenings. Seth and Keith walked hospital gardens. Fall air crisp as resolve. This place. It's you, Seth said. Leaves crunching. Fierce love. No quits. Keith leaned head on shoulder. Like us. Intimacy rekindled quiet. Hands laced on benches. Kisses under harvest moon. World's chaos fading to 2. Dad woke lucid 3rd week. Voice slurry but eyes clear. Boys. Plural. Encompassing Seth with nod. Heard. From Marcus. Good man. Seth squeezed hand gentle. Family's what we make. Dad's gaze held Keith's. Tears tracking. Proud. Son. Of all. Absolution complete. Wounds cauterized in beeps and blooms. Discharge loomed November. Dad to rehab, Keith staying month to settle. Seth returned Seattle. Bar demanding. But calls nightly. Miss your chaos. Keith laughed, heart full. Soon, hybrid solidified. Keith's share from house sale funding Seattle studio, sketches to gallery whispers, Ohio visits quarterly, Seth joining holidays. Betrayal's specter banished, replaced by bedrock. Thanksgiving, Harlan's hosted dual feast. Seattle strays plus video call to Dad and Marcus, screens bridging tables groaning turkey. Toasts rang. Eddie to second acts, Seth's eyes on Keith. Voice low later, forever's looking good. Winter solstice, snow blanketing square. Keith proposed expansion, not bricks, but book, compiling sketches into abandoned echoes, tales of foundlings like them. Seth proofed pages, pride beaming. Publish it. World needs your voice. Launch party New Year's. Bar alight. Copies signing amid cheers. Dad called post-midnight. Read first chapter. Cried. Love you, son. Climax resolved not in thunder but thaw. Spring brought Dad eastbound visit. Wheelchair rolling patio. Seth grilling skewers. Marcus trailing with tails. Awkward graces flowed. Handshakes to hugs. Stories swapping like currency. This place? Dad marveled. Sunset gilding. Home. Keith nodded. Seth's arm warm around waist. Ours. Years wove tapestry. Bar thrived. Expansions to food truck Seth helmed. Keith's book birthing speaking gigs. LGBTQ youth centers. His story beacon. Ohio ties endured. Summer's lake fishing with Dad. Marcus's wedding where Keith stood best man. Rainbow boutonniere defiant. Betrayals transmuted to testimonials. Conflicts to compassion. One eve. 10th anniversary loft bound. Candles flickering mural. Seth knelt with ring simple band. Engraved harbor found. Marry me? Build eternities. Keith yes sighed. Kiss ceiling. Life's arc bending gentle. Humanistic close. Not flawless utopia, but mosaic mended. Family fractured yet fierce. Love a generous stranger's hand extended endless. In Seattle's rain-washed streets, Keith walked taller. Echoes of abandonment faint. Hope's chorus resounding. For in welcoming without question, they'd woven a world wide as the sound, deep as the scars that shaped them. Epilogue whispered. Dad's last letter, pen shaky but sure. You taught forgiveness, son. Live loud, for her, for us. Keith framed it by the mural. Seth's kiss on nape affirmation. And in the bar's hum, glasses clinking like prayers, they did.